Welcome back to Realistic Progression 1, and it's time to make some changes to our Lunar rockets. So let's go and edit this one we've got in storage, because we can do that and save some construction time. And let's get things a little bit more accurate, shall we? We definitely want to improve things. So just wait for the VAB to appear, and then we'll start editing some bits and pieces. And if you're following along, it shouldn't be terribly hard for you to do the same. So if we just pop up to here, let's get rid of the fairings for a second, and let's get into the trouble areas. So the trouble areas are definitely this, the decoupler. Let's move that over there. So you'll see it has a force percentage and impulse. I'm just going to bring those down to 0. I think I just want it to detach and not impart any kind of push on this whatsoever, so that I can see what it's doing here exactly, rather than approximately. And then I also think I'm going to go in here. I'm going to take these out. And in fact, I'm just going to put them aside entirely, if I can. There we go. And create a couple of structural elements. We don't want very small ones. If that's the smallest one we can get, looks likely. And we're going to mirror that to 2 of them. And move it in. Let's take a look. How does that look? Yeah, it looks okay. These are hollow, so it doesn't really much matter there. And then I'm going to remount some of these separatrons, or separator motors, whatever you want to call them, onto this. And that's the wrong axis. That is the correct axis. It doesn't much matter which way we put them here. I'm only concerned with mounting them so that they are... yeah, quite like that. So they have no component which pushes us forwards at all. I want them all to be rotational force, so it's just going to spin on that central axis. Okay, so this, again, this vacuum delta V, this is exactly the amount that we want, and it will be in here. Okay, so that means we can then add up our various delta V's and get, the exact value, hopefully. So we got 8.4 K, 9.2, 9.3. So it should be enough for us to get into orbit. It'll be slightly heavier because of these structural elements. So if we have to boost things a little bit, we do have RCS, so we can enable RCS and just push ourselves a little bit forward if it runs out, but it shouldn't run out too soon. Okay, and then we can just doubly check and make sure that I've gone to the uprated engines. So I haven't on this case, so we will switch to those uprated engines. And is the research and development being done? Looks like it is. And we'll do the same thing down here. Yep, it is. And oops, I need to switch that, then check whether it is. It is as well. Okay, so now what's that like? That's 8.6. 9.4. So we're now comfortably going to get to orbit, just with those changes. Again, not much of a change here. I'm really, really thinking that we should tool this in some way. Let's just see what needs tooling. Let's put this back on first of all. In fact, let me just change the staging before we do that. So let's zoom out. And we've got to make sure the staging is put right, by the way it normally is. That's the case, that's the case. These drop off, then those are in the wrong place, aren't they? So they are going to come just before separation. So it needs to go in there with those. Okay, so this separates, then these start pushing to create ullage, then our AJ10 fires, then these spin up, etc. So that is all fine. And we're going to have 2 of these, and we need to put those somewhere as well. So they're going to be just before everything separates. All right, so I'm going to save that as Lunar 1, and that's an updated version. And let's see if we can tool any of this, because I'm probably going to do a few impact or science flybys of the moon. It's certainly by far the closest thing we can actually get to. Tooled, not a great amount of cost for tooling, is it? So yeah, we should probably, we could be able to do that without much problems. So we want the payload fairing, we're going to tool that, purchase it, and then the tank number 3. 0.2 by 0.2. That is the RCS tanks. So in here, those tiny little things, because they're small, we can purchase them. And then the decoupler is presumably that. Yeah. Okay, so that's all the tooling done. And we'll put our payload fairings back. Hopefully let me select them. There you go. 2 of those. They go back into their own stage for a change. Save that. Save some edits. And then what we're going to do is go across to mission control and see if we can take the Lunar Impactor mission. Now, the hard part about it is almost that we have to get science back to the Space Center before we hit the moon. So if you go head on, it's harder than just, you know, sort of scraping a little bit as you actually go by. So Lunar Impactor uncrewed. So we have to get an altitude of below 10,000 meters and impact the moon. Well, both of those are the same thing essentially with the moon. And altitude terrain below 50 meters. Yeah. If you get 49 and don't manage to impact the moon, well, yeah, good luck. Okay, so let's take this. And we get 468,000, which is quite a lot. But of course, we have actually upgraded our tracking station by 1. That's 2.5 million. This one's 500,000. So this is probably the next thing that we're going to have to get to. And then what's mission control again? I think we have upgraded that. We have. And the launch pad. Ooh, we can afford to upgrade the launch pad. So I think I'm going to do that right about now. Okay. And that's an upgrade requested. That will take some time to upgrade, but that will enable us to get much, much larger rockets there. What's the difference? So 40 meters instead of 30, 22.6 meters width, I assume that is. And then, yeah, nearly triple the tonnage. So we'll have that going. Okay, time for another rocket to go into orbit. We should be able to use this one, I think, because it's not complete yet because we took the mission before it was completed. And hopefully we can use that. But if we can't, it's not a problem. We can figure it out and work it into the next lunar rocket. Just as a reminder, if you haven't seen the previous episodes on getting to the moon, just thought I'd show you the various different lunars we've got. I should rename some of them, but yeah, here was our last one. That's heading, not the side, is it the last one? Yeah, it probably is. It's heading way, way, way out of there. And of course, once it gets to this point, it's going to then start an orbit, and there is another one we sent previously. So they will all be on an orbit out of the sun. This just shows, you know, its relative position relative to Earth. So let's zoom in a little bit. And again, we just want to choose the highest point in the orbit, which is up here, and we want to have that facing this way. And then we'll bring this up, and we want the moon to be about here. So we're going to have to fast forward a fair amount. And that will be fine. We need to then roll out the rocket. That will take 4 days. So we should do that early as we possibly can. And send the moon round till we get close to where we want to go. Right about there seems good. And then we want to get that launch pad lined up. Well, in fact, it doesn't really matter because now we've got MacJeb launch into plane, which will pick the appropriate point, I think. As long as we're on the right half of the things, it will go fine. So let's see, where is Cape Canaveral? That is not Cape Canaveral. Neither's that. It must be all the way around here already. Yeah. So it's already in the right position, or there or thereabouts. It's right here. So we'll head to the launch pad and see if MacJeb agrees. Okay, it's a night launch, so I appreciate you can't see much here, but just to demonstrate, we're going to engage the autopilot and show the nav ball. Then we're going to go into map, and then we're going to need to pick the moon, set as target, and then launch into plane of target here. So 21 hours, it's almost, I guess we have to go all the way around again. But that's fine. We should be still be okay to get to the moon, I assume. And there goes the sun, and it's probably going to go dark again. Oh, no, we might get a sunset launch. So the sun's going to be behind us as we head up. 13, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, etc. At this point, it will take off automatically. We don't need to worry about auto staging because as soon as it takes off, as in a few seconds, I'm just going to hit the first stage to release the towers to let us go. And then, you know, we'll skip forward to orbit because you don't want to see another orbit ascent of the same vehicle. You want to see explosions on entirely new vehicles. Okay, so we're down to 10 seconds. 9, 8. That seems to be going slower than I might expect. I don't think there's less than a 1 times warp, but that seems to be certainly slower. I think my computer's slowing down on this launch, so off it goes. And I'm going to press space, and it's going to take off for launch. So I will see you in orbit. And here we are in orbit with something that should impact the moon. At least that's the way. We don't see any periapsis over there at the moment. There's no connection at the moment, of course. So we're going to focus the view on the moon, and you'll see exactly where we're going to go, or at least if we get exactly this amount of delta V out of this stage that it says we do, that's how much, or that's where we're going to go. We'll see how close that actually turns out to be the case. Yeah, once we're ready to go. So let's press backspace to get back to our vessel. And there's our maneuver node. So we're going to need to, first of all, once we get some connection, so let's just fast forward a little bit and do the usual thing here. And there we got a connection. So we're going to point at the node by turning on our RCS. And that's going to alter things a tiny bit. So we got to be a bit careful and maybe replot things just a little bit once we're pointing at the node. It's unfortunate that happens, but it's going to be fine. Are you finished maneuvering? I don't see any tiny little puffs of RCS. So that is pointing in the right direction now. So if I turn off RCS, oh, no connection again. So annoying. Okay, so 3198.9 is what we'll need to actually hit that now. Let's go and quickly take a look at the moon again. So here it is. So if I want to reduce that, what I'm going to do is take down the radial a little bit. 3197, that's even too much at this sort of rate. 3198, there it is. So it's still going to hit the moon, assuming that everything else stays equal, which is, you know, not necessarily what will happen. But let's bring ourselves around to, say, here, check to make sure that nothing else is going to go wrong. See, we're already offset from that node, which I don't like particularly. But it is going to correct. However, now it's 3202. So, right, we're going to need a bit more change. That said, so let's just go back across to the moon, focus that on over here. We want to be very, very exact about coming in here. So we're probably down to changing just very small amounts of delta V here. We're going to bring this down. So let's see. Oh, there we go. Just 0.1 change now. We'll still get us to impact the moon. But yeah, assuming we stay pointed in this direction. So we've got a node in T-minus 12 minutes. Let's head back to our orbit and see if we can just warp forwards a little bit more. And will it stay pointed in the right direction? Hopefully it will. Now it's 3196.7. That's extremely annoying. I just want to get this as perfect as I possibly can. So let's just up this a little bit more. There we go. Put that back again. And we've got 6 minutes to go. So we're pointed on the right vector now. And I'm just going to disable RCS. Nothing else to do. But just fast forward a little bit. Remember, we've got 32 seconds. So we need 15 seconds, 16, 17 seconds or something remaining on the clock. And that will go by really quite quickly. So let's just get to within a minute. There it is. So 40 seconds. Not much I can really do to change things now. We're right on track as far as that is concerned. And let's spin up. Okay, and we're spinning. Separate and burn. Okay, everything is going successfully. We'll see how well I've plotted this impactor, potentially an impactor, any second. We can head out to the map view, and this will let us see, hopefully, as long as it doesn't fail, our orbital track come all the way out and hit the moon, or miss entirely. Place your bets. In it comes. Okay, it's fading out, but that should be enough to push it all the way out here. Into the moon? Oh, really? How? How? I plotted that to be 3198 exactly, and we still miss by 13 million kilometers. Sorry, 13 million meters. 13,000 kilometers. So what we actually look like we need is some ever so tiny adjustment ability after that stage is done. That seems to be something we could do if we can get tanks small enough with some sort of RCS. Now, because we've got uprated engines, I suppose we could use this for a science vessel. That might be interesting. But I'm not need to worry about it too much. Yeah, I'm almost sure that was perfect. That's going to annoy me. If you see something that I missed, feel free to let me know in the comments. I don't think I missed anything. Except that maybe the numbers are slightly rounded up and it was just fractions of a meter per second that we actually needed for that final amount. Okay, so what can we do about that? We can probably look at designing a tiny top stage or some kind of tiny control. I just want to see how much weight that adds. Remember, we've probably got an extra couple hundred delta V out of the lower stages, but the main problem with the upper stage will be when we add these tanks onto that Pioneer capsule at the very top, or a tank onto that Pioneer capsule, it will require more fuel in our booster stage, which in turn will cascade down into actual requirements. So let me have a play around with this and see if we can get something a little bit better. Okay, so I tried a newer design, but this isn't going to really work, I don't think. And the reason why is this avionics package. It's on the AJ10 stage, and as soon as I leave that behind, I'm not going to be able to control this anymore. So because this probe doesn't have any avionics effectively, and we don't have anything lighter than this, we can't really put an avionics core up here to get to the moon, at least not until later technology comes along. So I have put a tiny little RCS tank there. That's not going to do any good. Neither is these little tiny RCS motors. So yeah, think of this just like a redo of the previous design. So I'm going to watch out for this to get to probably an APO of, because I've got less delta V here now, because I've put all this extra stuff on, I'm going to have to get to a higher APO than I previously had. So maybe around 300, 350, something like that, to give me enough control to be able to get there with 3108 exactly. So I'm going to carry on doing that into orbit and then get a maneuver node, and then you guys get to see whether I can still hit the moon on a second attempt. Okay, here we go on a second attempt. So we've got a minute left before the node passes. So again, we're going to need 34.8 divided by 2, so 17.4 seconds remaining before the node, before we fire this up. So we'll need a few seconds before that to spin up. I've got RCS on, but I need to remember to turn RCS off before I initiate the node, because we're going to go out of control, and the other RCS stage in the top stage up here will continue firing if we were out of control. So that's going to have to be something we do. So we're coming up to it now. So I'm going to turn off RCS. And then I'm going to spin up in a second or two. Right about there should be fine. Let's spin up. Okay. And separates. And now. Okay, again, no more control. As far as I know, it's exactly correct. But this just seems to be really temperamental, and it's even more temperamental to time. So if I'm either a second or two off, that may be something I did in the first attempt. you know, it will go through here quite quickly, just because I think I'm on a fairly fast transit across here. So let's see how well this does and see if we get close. Again, we've got this wobble, and there's not much I can do about that, I don't think. And where's the orbit going to come to? Oh, and we've looked. Hands off. That looks like we've done it. Okay, I'll take it. If that is an impact, I will take it. So what are we now? How are we doing for electric charge? That's the only other thing we've got to take care of. There's not much else we can do at this particular point. I can't really control it or do anything else. Yes, we can trigger these staging, but that's not going to actually help. Hands off the controls. So let's see if I can backspace and then maybe warp out to where we change between one and the other. Let's say around about here. Warp out there. And down goes our electric charge. But it's coming back up again because we've got enough solar panels on it, and we've got solar panels plastered everywhere on this thing to try and, you know, deal with the fact that it could be pointing in any direction and we can't reorient it whatsoever. Okay, so in comes the moon. And I guess we've got to be fairly... Look at that path. Okay, so we're getting ahead of it. It's going to slow us down and we're going to slam right into it. Hopefully, that means if I warp to here instead... Yeah, we should be able to transmit some science. There we go. Time warp complete. So what's the thing for our lunar impactor? Impact the moon. Oh, we don't need to do science. Why did I think we did? Let's do some science anyway, shall we? So let's take care of that. And let's just, for argument's sake, just because that's what we want to do, analyze telemetry and transmit it. Why not? Okay, and we may get some more science from really, really up close with the moon. But let's give that a go, shall we? So let's warp forwards, and all we have to do is impact now. There's very little I can do other than impact. Here we come. So the moon should be much larger. Yeah, here it comes. This will interrupt us if we do get any new science, which will be nice to see. However, otherwise, let's just close down our various windows because we don't need them anymore. And we can just see the wonderful moon coming up to meet us. It's one small step for a unmanned probe. That's almost like a target. Needs an X marks the spot. How close are we going to get? Oh, I think we're going to miss it. I think we are going to miss it. Oh, maybe. We're not going to get any science. And I'm going to miss... Oh, look at that. That's not far off. Okay, and in we go. Oh, the camera does not like that whatsoever. Ooh, interesting. Will it pull... No, I think we're still going to miss. Do I get like a 7 points for you know, this middle ring instead of 10 points? Oh, well, space high. And in comes space low at some point soon. Mer Oriental. Okay. Or Mare, or however you pronounce that. I'm sure someone in the comments will correct my pronunciation, which is going to be terrible. We have no connection now. Unfortunately, there's nothing more we can do except watch the moon come up and greet us with a big, big hug. 30,000 and sunset. Nothing will see us impact. The ground's really rough. And boom. Moon impact craft. Or vice versa, I would imagine. So yes, well, it's all relative, isn't it? So yeah, we've done it. There we go. Catastrophic failure. No, it wasn't a catastrophic failure. This is just fine. Leave it. So back to the Space Center. And here we are with the impact mission complete. 475,000. And our launch pad was already paid. So it's already in tech. It's 49 days from upgrading to the much heavier version. Of course, we're going to need much heavier vehicle to do that. So that's something that's going to be upcoming. What else did we get now that we've... now that we've impacted, we get to do it again. We get to do each of these missions, the various ones. They do have a limited number of retries, you know, that's intentional. It's not a bug or anything. And that will pay for various upgrades that you're going to want to actually upgrade as part of your you know, sort of career. So that I will do off camera. Now that I know that it's probably the timing of the firing on that node rather than the Delta V, I should be able to hit it fairly reliably now, I would have thought. But, you know, I'll let you know if it's something else, and you let me know in the comments if you think it's something else, by all means. I can remove those RCS, that RCS tank and the RCS thrusters themselves, and we should be okay. So the next one really to think about is Lunar Orbiter. That's going to be more of an issue because we're going to need something slowing us down, which means we probably need control, which means we probably need avionics. So we're probably going to need to get through some tech nodes to the later probes, I would have thought. So what nodes have we got? Entry, descent, and landing. Okay, that's the heat shield, I think. Supersonic flight. I don't need supersonic flight. Why is that there? So primitive solar panels I would be fine with. Orbital rocketry I would be fine with. Lunar range communications, we really should be fine with that. I don't need any supersonic flights at all. Early flight control, you can go up there. As can basic avionics and probes. I probably actually want that sooner. Yeah, so we do basic avionics and probes. I don't need the heat shields just yet unless we've got any missions requiring a return. And we don't need to worry about early human space flight just yet. So that's going to be that. Mature, so yeah, so maybe move everything up above that entry, descent, and landing, I think. Yeah, so let's see how that goes. That's 425 days, of course, so if I can build some more science-type vessels in the meantime and increase the speed some, I'll be much happier. But that's going to be another episode. We've impacted the moon in this episode, so we got lots of nice money for this one rather than science. So next episode, we'll see where we can get to, but until then, I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to thumbs up, subscribe, share, hit the bell, whatever you want to actually do, or just leave comments about suggestions and stuff like that. And as always, thanks for watching.